the 16th of October 1555, in a ditch outside Oxford, two men were chained back to back to a single wooden stake. One was 70 years old, the other, a bishop. As the flames were lit at their feet, the elder man turned to his companion and spoke words that would echo through English history for nearly 500 years. "Be of good comfort, Master Ridley, and play the man. We shall this day light such a candle, by God's grace, in England, as I trust shall never be put out." Hugh Latimer died quickly. Nicholas Ridley did not. The wood had been stacked badly. The fire burned his lower legs to a bone, while his upper body remained untouched. He screamed for the flames to come to him. He screamed for someone, anyone, to end it. It took nearly 45 minutes. There were two of 280. 280 men, women, and children burned alive in just 3 years on the orders of one woman, a queen, a daughter, a devout Catholic who believed, with absolute conviction, that she was saving England's soul. Her name was Mary Tudor. History would give her another, Bloody Mary. This is Cruel Histories. To understand the fires, you must understand the woman who lit them. Mary Tudor was born on the 18th of February 1516, the only surviving child of King Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon. For the first 17 years of her life, she was a princess, adored, educated, promised in marriage to European royalty. Then, in 1533, her father did something that would shatter her world and set England on a collision course with itself. He divorced her mother. To marry Anne Boleyn, Henry broke with the Roman Catholic Church, declared himself head of a new Church of England, and had Mary declared illegitimate. Overnight, the princess became a bastard. Her mother was banished. Mary was forbidden from seeing her. Catherine of Aragon died in 1536, alone, without her daughter beside her. Mary was 20 years old. For the next 17 years, Mary lived in the shadows of the Tudor court. Under her half-brother Edward VI, England became aggressively Protestant. Catholic Mass was banned, priests were arrested. Mary clung to her faith in private, hearing forbidden masses in her chambers, refusing to bend. Then in July 1553, Edward died at 15. And after a brief, chaotic attempt to place the Protestant Lady Jane Grey on the throne, England did something no one expected. It rallied to Mary. The people, still largely Catholic at heart, marched with her into London. On the 1st of October 1553, she was crowned Queen of England, the first woman ever to rule the country in her own right. She had one mission: bring England back to Rome, whatever the cost. The killings did not begin immediately. For the first year of her reign, Mary was cautious. She reinstated Catholic bishops. She married Philip II of Spain, the most powerful Catholic monarch in Europe. But she did not yet burn. That changed in January 1555. Parliament, under enormous pressure from the Crown, revived the medieval heresy laws that had lain dormant for decades. Under these statutes, anyone who denied Catholic doctrine, particularly the doctrine of transubstantiation, could be tried by a church court, handed to the state, and burned alive. The first victim was John Rogers, a priest and Bible translator. He was burned at Smithfield in London on the 4th of February 1555. His wife and 11 children watched. He refused to recant. He walked to the stake, according to eyewitnesses, as if it were to his wedding. The fire spread across England. At Smithfield, the ancient meat market, just outside London's walls, the burnings became public spectacles. Crowds gathered. Preachers were dragged in carts to the stake, chained to iron rings, and set alight, while bags of gunpowder were sometimes tied around their necks to hasten death. Sometimes the powder failed, sometimes it did not. Sometimes the wind blew the flames sideways, and men and women burned for over an hour, conscious the entire time. The victims were not the powerful. Most were weavers, tailors, farmers, apprentices. Ordinary people who had grown up under Protestant rule and refused to abandon it. 60 of them were women. Several were pregnant. In one recorded case at Guernsey in 1556, a woman named Paratine Massey gave birth in the flames. Her newborn son was thrown back into the fire, but it was the death of 3 men in particular that would define Mary's reign and doom her legacy. Hugh Latimer, Nicholas Ridley, and Thomas Cranmer. Cranmer had been Archbishop of Canterbury under Henry VIII. He had annulled Mary's mother's marriage. He had crowned her Protestant brother. He was to Mary the architect of everything she hated. She wanted him not just dead, she wanted him broken. For months, Cranmer was held in Oxford. He was made to watch Latimer and Ridley burn. He was worked on by theologians, threatened, isolated, and eventually he broke. He signed 6 recantations. He denied his Protestant faith. He acknowledged the Pope's authority. By the rules Mary herself had set, this should have saved him. Recantation meant absolution, but Mary refused. She wanted him burned anyway. On the 21st of March 1556, Cranmer was taken to the University Church in Oxford to make one final public recantation before his execution. He stood before the crowd. He was expected to condemn Protestantism one last time, to give the Queen her final propaganda victory. Instead, he did something extraordinary. He renounced his recantations, all of them. He declared that his hand, the hand that had signed those documents against his conscience, would burn first. He was dragged from the pulpit and rushed to the stake in Broad Street, Oxford. When the flames rose, Thomas Cranmer, 66 years old, deliberately thrust his right hand into the fire. He held it there. He did not flinch. Eyewitnesses recorded that he cried out only once, saying, "This hand hath offended." He kept it in the flames until it was blackened and consumed. Only then did he allow the rest of his body to burn. It was the single most powerful act of defiance in the entire persecution, and Mary had created it herself. By 1558, the burnings had reached a fever pitch, but something had shifted. Who had cheered Mary's coronation just 5 years earlier were turning against her. The victims had become too ordinary, too sympathetic. A blind woman named Joan Waste, burned at Derby in 1556 for owning an English New Testament. A pregnant woman at Guernsey, teenagers, grandmothers. The Smithfield crowds began to weep instead of cheer. Some began to shout warnings to the condemned. Some began to whisper that the Queen was cursed, and she was, in her own mind, being punished. Mary had desperately wanted a child, an heir, a Catholic successor to secure her work. Twice she believed herself pregnant. Twice her belly swelled. Twice she waited, month after month, for a child that never came. Modern historians believe she suffered from ovarian or uterine cancer. At the time, she believed it was God's judgment. Her husband Philip had returned to Spain. He rarely wrote. The country hated her. The fires kept burning, but the faith they were meant to restore was dying with every stake. On the 17th of November, 1558, Mary I died at St. James's Palace. She was 42 years old. Her half-sister Elizabeth, the Protestant daughter of Anne Boleyn, inherited the throne within hours, and within months, every Catholic law Mary had passed was reversed. The candle that Latimer promised had been lit. It was never put out. The final death toll of the Marian Persecutions is documented with unusual precision, thanks largely to one man, John Foxe, a Protestant exile who returned to England after Mary's death and compiled every burning, every trial, every last testament into a book called Actas and Monuments. Published in 1563, it became better known as Foxe's Book of Martyrs. For centuries, it sat in English churches beside the Bible. It shaped how the English-speaking world remembered Mary Tudor. It gave her the name she still carries today, Bloody Mary. 284 confirmed executions by burning in 3 years and 9 months. More religious executions than any English monarch before or since, concentrated in a period so short that whole villages lost multiple members within weeks of each other. And here is the cruelest irony of all. Mary genuinely believed she was saving souls. She believed the pain of the flames was mercy compared to the eternal fire of hell that awaited heretics. She believed history would remember her as the queen who brought England home. History remembered her differently. Her sister Elizabeth would rule for 45 years. She would establish Protestantism permanently. She would execute Catholics too, though never in such numbers and never so publicly. And when Elizabeth died in 1603, the Tudor dynasty died with her. But the fires Mary lit at Smithfield, at Oxford, at Canterbury, at Guernsey, and in 50 other towns across England Those fires shaped the English identity for the next 400 years. Anti-Catholicism became woven into English law, English literature, English culture. Guy Fawkes, the Gunpowder Plot, the Glorious Revolution, all downstream of the smoke rising from Mary's stakes. She wanted to be remembered as a savior. She is remembered as a warning. If this episode gave you chills or made you see Tudor history in a darker light, do us a favor. Hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. Subscribe if you haven't already, because next week we are going somewhere even darker to investigate the greatest unsolved murder in English royal history. 2 young boys, a throne, and an uncle who would stop at nothing. Episode 8, The Princes in the Tower. Drop a comment below. Do you think Mary Tudor deserves the name Bloody Mary? Or was she simply doing what every monarch of her age would have done? We read every comment. Until next time, sleep well, if you can. This has been Cruel Histories.